Okay. That was bullshit. So, Stalker Anomaly. I want to start off by saying that this isn't really a review. I mean, don't be disappointed, it still kinda is, but I want to give more of a personal view of Anomaly, as someone who's had his fair share of Stalker-related content on my main channel. If you're watching this video and you expect me to go into detail on the vanilla games, well, I'm not gonna do that. Suffice to say that Stalker mods are a continuation of the three-part Stalker series. Shadow of Chernobyl as the first game, Clear Sky the second game, and Call of Pripyat as the third game. One of the questions that is always in the background of a thriving modding scene is what makes the base game so attractive that people want more and that they go on to modify the games mostly to extend their own enjoyment. They also go on to add their own creative take on the games and to make them more aligned with their own vision of things. It could be argued that the two main factors in Stalker are the unique premise and feeling of the game world along with the atmosphere that the games evoke. While the base games gave the players certain freedoms, people have always felt that having a real simulator of everyday life and survival in the zone would make a great and enjoyable experience beyond the content of the vanilla games. So this was an idea, a what if that also came to my mind after replaying Call of Pripyat for the millionth time. And so I gazed into the abyss and found out that Call of Chernobyl exists. Call of Chernobyl was the first Stalker mod that I've played, and I found that it embodied a lot of the stuff that you would want to see in a zone simulator. Picking a faction, having a base camp, doing missions, surviving your everyday Stalker life, it was all there. But just like any person prone to abuse substances that give you a certain feeling that could be described as enjoyment, I craved for more. I needed a harder fix. Call of Chernobyl was fine, but it became too easy, too mundane. My equipment was too great, the enemies too weak, my suffering too benign. Unknown to me, there was another kind of madness getting cooked up in Russia.
Как называется эта страна?
Where else, right? But it only came down to me when I found Last Day, another modification that would become my obsession. To realize the ridiculous level of Stalker modding reached by that moment, let's just try to recap where we were at when we were playing Last Day. So, if I get it correctly, Last Day is a modification that is based on Call of Misery, which is based on Call of Chernobyl mixed with Misery, another Stalker mod which would warrant a special video of itself, and Call of Chernobyl is basically a mod combining the maps from the three vanilla games. So, just to get this straight, we're not playing mods anymore, we're playing mods of mods that you can mod further through add-ons or mods for mods. That makes sense, right? But Last Day was my jam. It took some time for me to actually realize how some of the mechanics carried over from Misery work, but the main thing was it was more difficult and deadly, and that was the main thing I was looking for. Speaking of difficulty, there's only so much you can do if you're following the concept established by the base games. While modders were able to add many layers to the game that mostly were suited to immerse the players even more into the world of Stalkers, things like artifact containers, pliers you had to use to handle them, having to sleep, drink, eat, PDA magic and a bunch of other things, the progression difficulty was always based on the same thing: gear. You see, the reason why Call of Chernobyl, as a notable example, was seen as too easy was because you could witness a firefight of well-geared Stalkers, scavenge most of their stuff, and you would already find yourself in what basically is the endgame. Due to the concept of a truly open world zone, highly geared Stalkers could be anywhere, and they could drop really good outfits and guns. Paired with the fact that missions paid rather well in Call of Chernobyl, at least compared to later iterations of Stalker mods, it made for an easier experience. The way to combat that in mods was to make gear expensive and to make it hard to get. Weapons could drop, but they were utterly broken, same thing with outfits, but you would have to spend a fortune to repair them. This way the progression difficulty was altered and the game made harder. And this was necessary due to the fact that there was no classical progression system which would measure your character progress through levels that would gradually make your character stronger, as it is in most traditional RPGs. The early version of Anomaly extended some things that were present in Last Day, but the newest thing was the 64-bit engine, which had greater implications in modding, I guess. So don't ask me anything about the technical details, because frankly, I know very little about them. The gradual emergence of Anomaly with new features, new actual questlines which could complement the sandbox premise of Anomaly, all worked towards the goal to make Anomaly the biggest and probably best Western Stalker mod around. So what do you actually do in your typical Anomaly run? First, you create a character. This is something new for the people that only played the vanilla games, but creating a character is actually a very important element. As I've mentioned before, the fact that a simulation of life in the zone was one of the things that was probably mostly wished for by players of the original game, a character creation system gave an additional element which could be used to further immerse yourself in the game world. You weren't S.T.A.L.K.E.R or S.K.E.R anymore, no predefined character on a linear lane towards a decided end. You could create your own character that would face the zone in his own unique way, having personalized goals and ends which he sought to achieve. As always with games like this, the game world is the scaffolding upon which your imagination is building. Surely, the game world could feel empty, the missions repetitive, and the general premise of a sandbox set in the zone too shallow. But for people that were and are fans of the universe, be it the 3 Stalker games only, Tarkovsky's movie or Roadside Picnic, this offered a unique opportunity to dive into the same, or at least a very similar universe. There is a sense of immersion that is lost on many people that just lack the imagination or patience, the childlike ability to play in a predefined setting and to enrich it with your own vision of yourself in it. A few games come to mind, for example, Gothic 1, especially the start, which could offer the player the opportunity to be a part of the mining colony and to see everyday life. Maybe even Red Dead Redemption 2, which seems to have the ambition of creating a world where you could actually play as a part and not feel alienated by the sheer fact of being the omnipotent controller behind the character in the world. Your goals in Anomaly are as simple or complicated as you make them out to be. Are you in for the money, the gear, the fame, the predefined questlines that lead you down a path of dispelling some of the mysteries of the zone? Are you a loner that is mostly concerned with exploring, with the hidden paths of the zone? A bandit looking for the next juicy target? A mercenary that is only doing his job, as bloody as it is? This is a part of the addictive loop of Stalker Anomaly, something that reminds me of games like Morrowind. There is a whole world to enjoy and traverse, but there is also focused content if you feel like going through that. Truly, Anomaly cannot be treated as a Stalker game anymore, at least a Stalker game that is reminiscent of the vanilla games. Of course, there are things that are shared, the general atmosphere and gameplay is derived from the vanilla games, but it has been modded and warped so much that Anomaly is very much its own thing. There are 9 factions in the zone that you can choose from. Actually, there are 2 more that you can unlock through the story missions, but we'll leave these aside for now. The first faction you will probably see are the free Stalkers or the Loners. They are your basic Stalkers, something that is closest to the characters you might know from the Tarkovsky movie or Roadside Picnic. They prefer to remain unaligned with the many other factions. They are more of an unofficial brotherhood, as various as the people that are making it up. I think loners were more of a choice that had to be made by Call of Chernobyl and other mods, just a way to group stalkers that are not really unified and that don't have one single goal that they strive to achieve. If you really want to think them through, they will probably consist of smaller groups of independent stalkers trying to achieve their own thing in the zone. Bandits are, well, pretty self-explanatory. They are criminals, the main proponents of the cheeky-breeky meme, and guys that do their best to rob, murder, and steal as much stuff from other stalkers as possible. It's no surprise that they are not on friendly terms with most other factions in the zone. They are also very well known for their unique gear and fashion choices, and it can be surely said that they are the most stylish faction in the whole zone. Clear Sky are the guys you probably know from the second Stalker game, but in the sense of the faction dynamic they're basically eggheads with a bit more muscle. They want to understand the zone and guard the many deadly secrets within. Generally not a faction I find too interesting, but they can be mostly found around the Great Swamps getting bullied by boars and other muties. Duty, no, seriously, Duty, are one of the better known and more fleshed out Stalker factions. Basically the closest thing to military in the zone, well, except for the real military, I guess. Their goal is to guard humanity from the zone and to actually try to destroy it. They feel that the zone would somehow threaten the whole world if unchecked, and they therefore claim that they are on a crusade against dangerous mutants, anomalies, and above all, freedom. They can be found around their base in Rostock, and I always found it a bit sad that this is basically the only area where you can frequently meet them. I feel like they're a little bit underrepresented, to be honest. Freedom are the counterpart to Duty. They are your anarchist, 420 Blazed guys hanging around the army warehouses and being at almost constant war with Duty. Compared to Duty, they actually do something. And after our fighting Monolith at the barrier towards the radar. In the base game, Duty and Freedom were kinda divided equipment-wise as well, with Duty using mostly Warsaw Pact gear while Freedom had NATO equipment. This carries over into Anomaly as well, and Freedom's easygoing nature makes them friendly to most other factions in the zone. Mercenaries are, well, just what the name implies. Imagine Agent 47 in the zone overdosing on cheap sausage and vodka and doing paid hits. Well, they're set up as one of the more mysterious factions in the zone, mostly doing very specific and well-paid jobs without any clear allegiance or stance to the zone itself. Some sources claim that many of them have a real military background and that they're mostly Westerners following the guidance of a thing called the Syndicate, a shadowy organization with its own goals in the zone. The military have been featured in most Stalker games, mostly conscripted grunts and highly trained Spetsnaz detachments, sometimes even featuring commissioned Stalkers. They are usually mostly concerned with guarding key points in the zone and securing the border between the outside world and the area. Known to like to shoot you on sight, but also portrayed as usually very corrupt in the field. The Ecologists are probably the most pacifistic faction in the zone. They are contracted by the Ukrainian government and mostly are interested in the scientific aspects of the zone. Anomalies, mutant parts, artifacts, strange things taking place in the zone. That's their thing, and they are friendly with almost all other factions. Monolith are probably the most iconic faction in the Stalker universe. Brainwashed Stalkers following a cult centered around the Wish Granter, rumored to be an alien artifact in the center of the zone. They are hostile to all other factions and their goal is to block access to the center of the zone. Monolith soldiers are usually brainwashed stalkers that come under the influence of one of the psychic emitters throughout the zone. They serve the C consciousness, a thing you will have to explore by playing the base game since I have no intention of spoiling it. Monolith are hostile to every other faction and the base games and mods have fleshed out their appearance and behavior to a certain extent. Monolith can be seen praying in a trance-like state, they are friendly to zombies around the zone, they recite prayers and blow themselves up if they are wounded and you get too close to one of them. Usually seen as one of the main villains in every Stalker playthrough, they are in what would be high-level areas, or basically the areas closer to the power plant. The unique relations between factions, which can be modified to be dynamic, that is, changeable in-game, add another layer of complexity to the world of Stalker. The zone becomes divided into areas of influence, areas that you have to traverse as friendly or enemy territory. There are several ways to do this. Firefights are the most common one, where hostile stalkers will attack you on sight, but procuring an enemy uniform can fool your enemies into thinking you're one of them. There are experienced stalkers that work as guides scattered around the zone as well. A long detour to avoid enemy territory might be avoided by investing a bit of cash into one of these, and the immersive fast travel system that is thus offered. There are people with links to other factions as well. A truce can be procured for enough money and dangerous areas traversed that way. As seen through this example, the simplest given fact of everyday life in the zone presents unique challenges with multiple ways of resolving them, a thing that is not obviously hinted by the game itself, but a natural way of doing things that grows out of the game world itself. Hostile stalkers are not the only threat you will be facing in the zone. The first danger you have to traverse are the various anomalies, small oddities and spots in the zone where the laws of nature and physics are corrupted. These anomalies can deliver electric shocks, burn you, corrode, and distort physical objects. Most anomalies produce visible distortions and you can measure their extent by throwing objects into them, mostly bolts or bullet cartridges. Anomalies are very dangerous and will most likely one-shot you if you step in them carelessly. The dynamic anomaly setting, which is usually on in Stalker Anomaly, makes the game even harder and more lore-friendly by changing the pattern and locations of anomalies from time to time. You want to avoid anomalies, but the catch is that they are the prime place for finding artifacts. Actually, the so-called artifacts are formed in anomalies when they are exposed to certain conditions. An ordinary object can turn into an artifact with special effects if it is exposed to an anomaly. These artifacts can then be used by the player. You can either sell them or use specialized containers to make them a part of your outfit, actually to put them on your belt, hereby getting unique benefits granted by said artifact. Most artifacts generate radiation, so there is a downside to them, and special equipment needs to be used to avoid a higher exposure to radiation. The zone is populated by mutants as well, humans or animals that were warped by the zone, changing their physical appearance and behavior, making them aggressive and usually very dangerous. These mutants, which are best discovered on your own without seeing them in a video before, in a video like, for example, a review, paired with the unique level design and art style, make up a huge part of the well-known Stalker atmosphere, where horror isn't the first intended moment conjured by the vision of the developer, but where the horror is naturally and organically developed through the game world and the player awareness of being part of a strange and unforgiving place. Atmosphere like this. Cannot be created through jump scares and cheap tricks, but has to be made through a careful combination of art style, sound design, general gameplay, and map design. Another unique feature that is a continuation of something introduced in the base games is the so-called A-Life. A feature that basically breathes fresh air into every playthrough, and it gives Stalker a lot of its uniqueness. A-Life is a system that lets every entity in the zone, be it mutants or stalkers, behave in a certain way, give them a certain routine paired with a mix of randomness. The zone feels alive that way, with firefights, mutant attacks, and all other things happening with a feeling of lifelike randomness, through a type of structured chaos that is another method of creating immersion. So, be it that you're interested in more story content or a sandbox where you can just live out your fantasies in the zone, Anomaly is probably your best bet out of all available Stalker mods, and believe me, there are a lot of them. It's a very stable platform which can be further modified to your liking, and an ongoing passion project that is far from complete. Personally, I like the way the game is turning into an almost roguelike direction, with special Iron Man settings that you can use to complete specific, self-imposed challenges in the exclusion zone. So if you're looking for more after completing the base games, well, look no more. And I think that's it. If you enjoyed this, please do like the video, subscribe to the channel, and be sure to check out my main channel for some actual gameplay. Also check out the first pinned comment where I will be posting a few directions on where and how to install Anomaly. So, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next review.